Okay, so I turned the video off and went and got my stuff. Alright, so what I have here is a bunch of ginkgo leaves. You can use any kind of leaf, grass, feathers, the more distinct it is, the better it will show up. So feathers are a little bit tricky. You can still do them. Feathers are a little tricky simply because they don't stick to the bare plate, and when you get paint down there, when they go down, they're down. There's no moving them around. So getting them to go, especially if you have like really frilly, like ostrich feathers, you know, really fine, frilly, fluffy feathers, it is very difficult to get them to go down without being a kind of bunched up mess. So the best feathers to use are those that are very distinct in their shape, like pheasant feathers, or you can even use peacock feathers, especially the ones with the eyes that are a very distinct shape. Today we're going to use ginkgo leaves. And getting another piece of paper. Alright, so we are going to start again with the yellow. Slow dry medium is important with these techniques because you absolutely need time. Like I said before, normally when I do these, I use either Golden Open or Akua printer's inks because they take a lot longer to dry, but this class, the purpose of this class was to show you how you can get started with basically what you have, or inexpensively with stuff that you find at the dollar store and the hardware store and that sort of thing. So alright, I'm going to just lay these leaves down randomly, not too randomly because I do want it to, look good. Alright, now I'm just going to do a little spritz. I think it's wet enough, but just to be sure, I'm getting that down where it needs to go. And this is important. This particular printing, it's important to either use a brayer or some kind of a flat. You can use the back of a box, right? Like I did earlier with the tape, you can use the side of the tape. But because the leaves have a little bit more dimension to them, you want them to show up. Alright, now I'm going to take these leaves off quickly. Oh. No sponges, thank you. And now I'm going to take a ghost print. Again, just a little bit of dampness. Down. And again, the brayer. Now, it's important if you're going to use that little bit of dampness that you have a very fine mist sprayer. All right, and there is the ghost print. So you can see where the leaves came up. Okay. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and put the magenta right on top of this yellow without worrying too much about it, because that has a slightly different effect. Besides the blending of the color, you still have a little bit of a ghost from these leaves. I don't think you can see it very well. No, I don't think you can see it very well on camera, but I can absolutely see it here. So I'm going to go ahead and put the magenta down on top. Now this technique is much more effective with a jelly plate because of how the jelly plate acts with ghosts that are left on the plate. But again, that's another class. All right, now putting down the leaves, not in the same place, randomly putting them down. And probably not even using the same leaves this time, but that's okay. All right, using the first one that I printed, laying that down, brayer, all right, and here we have print number 2. So can you see in the background just the magenta? That's where those leaves were in the first place on the ghost print. All right, going to quickly take the leaves off. Now, if you're using dried leaves the way I am, they do have a period of time that you can use them this way, but they will eventually absorb the paint and become flaky, and they will break. So it all depends on like how well you let them dry in between, that sort of thing. And there's a glob there, which I didn't plan on being there. All right, we are going to do another little spritz and take the ghost. All right, And there's the ghost. You can see a little bit of the yellow in the background and my glob. You can see that very well. So then if you went ahead and did the blue, then you would have that layer. And in fact, why don't we just go ahead and do it? We have the time to do it. Now, this time I'm going to clean off the side because although it will be mostly purple, there will be some gray because the yellow is still active under there. So, and we're going to go ahead and clean up the plate as well. All right, now the phthalo blue, you will not have the same effect if you use opaque colors. They will just cover over what's there. So if that is in your intention, then there's nothing wrong with that. But it all has an effect. What colors you use, what patterns you put things in, all of those things. Every time you change something, you change everything. And I'm going to put leaves down. Again, a little bit random, but not completely random. That was too random, that bugs me, but I will leave it there. Bugs me because it's too much in a straight line. It's too much the same direction. There's a lot about it that bugs me, but it's all right. It's all good. Right, and again, first print that we did, we're printing over. Now, if you want to, especially if you're using tissue or some very sheer handmade paper, like mulberry paper or rice paper, you would not want to do this, where you brayer off on the back. You can put down your rice paper, put another piece of paper over top, and brayer off. So because if it's translucent or transparent paper, this will of course show through. So again, just thoughtful intention. All right, so that is that layer. You can see with the first layer, you have a much more graphic quality. With the ghost print, it's much more organic feeling. All right, so this leaf, you can see, broke a little. It's okay. Getting these off as quick as I can. If I had let the leaves dry first, before I put them on, they would last longer. All right, now going to do the ghost print. All right, and that's the ghost. So you can see how the phthalo immediately darkened everything. So this is where you have to really think about how you're going to proceed and how you want this to look. If I had not used the yellow and used the magenta and the blue, it would have been a much lighter, brighter print. Likewise, if I had not used the magenta and used the yellow and blue, that also would have been a much lighter print because you're only mixing two colors. There's no feeling of dark grade, which you can see here, although it's mostly a purple, it's a grade purple because of the yellow that's behind there. As opposed to right here, which that's mostly just purple. I don't know if you can see that. Because there was no yellow in there at all. So this is just magenta, this is just blue, and this is just the purple. So you can see the difference between this, these colors here that are more grade. All right, so one other thing that you can do, let me clean off my plate. And this is also called monoprinting. It's also called stenciling. Or not stenciling, stamping, excuse me. So I believe, I have not researched it, but I believe that that's where stamping came from, was the idea of doing the monoprint. All right, I am going to use black. You could use any color you want. I am going to get a clean piece of paper. I'll just use the end of one of these that I did before. And I'm going to get one of my ginkgo leaves. So I'm going to spread out the paint. Ooh, slow dry medium. I'm going to spread out the paint and I'm going to apply the paint by tapping it into the paint that's down there. If you brayer it on, it can get very thick. And you have that really neat print. And you can use these leaves as long as they hold together. It is the nice thing about having different leaves, the more pronounced the pattern is on the back of the leaf where the veins and stuff are, the more pronounced. Like an oak leaf or a maple leaf is very pronounced, the better the print will come out. And what you can do is take these prints, do only 2 layers, and then print inside the space. If you do only 1 layer and print inside, that's also a really neat look. And it's really nice if you're looking for a piece to put in your painting that is just a specific color. I tend to do pieces that are monochromatic. So this is an example of a piece of handmade paper. You can see all of the strings that are there, I hope. Maybe. I love these handmade papers. And I just put down paint randomly, brayered it, took a print, and did that a couple of different times. So this way I have a variety in the look of the paint rather than just painting it, which there's a place for, and I also do. But in this particular case, because the paper is so textured, I wanted that look in the paint as well. And to tear these, the best way to tear these to be able to have the strings is to wet the paper where you want it to tear. Find a brush here. So if I wanted it to tear in a certain place, I would wet it in that place. And then you let it set for just a minute or so. Hasn't set quite long enough. Put a little more water there. Encourage it a little. So then, when you tear it, there we go. When you tear it, it gives you that very natural looking tear and leaves the strings intact, which is the reason I use this paper. So if you cut it, then you're going to cut all those strings and totally defeat the purpose of having them. So no strings visible when you cut the paper. So tearing it is the way to go. This is a very heavy, this is not like mulberry paper, which is much easier to tear. This is very heavy. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's a really good paper to use if you are wanting to have something that looks like leather. Then you can cut it. and you have all of these striations in here that you can rub paint and really make it look leathery. But faux techniques are a whole nother class too. So I know I'm driving you crazy with that, aren't I? Just rolling off my brayer. Okay, so I think that that I covered pretty much everything that I did in class. I will bring these papers with me when I come on Friday so that you can see them in person. And sorry again that it took me so long. I had a lot of technical issues. Stuff I couldn't find for the camera because after the move. So anyway, here it is. I hope you get a chance to play a little bit before Friday. Come with any questions, email me, text me, whatever. See you Friday.